Welcome to Seasons of You, a podcast about seasons of change and our ever-evolving cyclical nature as women. I'm your host, Sarah, and I'll be sharing my experience of harnessing the power of the cycles as a guide for my life. And I'll be speaking to incredible guests where we'll explore struggles, growth, and expansion, and what inspires us to create and live a life that we truly desire. Get cozy and honour this moment for yourself as we dive in to the seasons of you. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which I live and travel. I give thanks to the Indigenous Australians who have an enduring and deep relationship to the land, skies, and waters of this country. I recognise that sovereignty was never ceded, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I also give thanks to my maternal lineage, to all the women who came before me, and to all those who came before you. You are in for an absolute treat with this episode. I loved this conversation with the incredible Christina. She has the most beautiful energy to be in. And I was honestly pinching myself that she so willingly jumped at coming on Seasons of You. I am so deeply grateful to her. Christina is an incredible entrepreneur and creative and mentor. She runs multiple businesses and she's a multi-passionate woman with such a depth of wisdom to share. Obviously, go and give her a follow, and I have all the links in the show notes for you to explore her world. But this conversation felt like a warm hug, and honestly, how could it not with two projectors speaking from their hearts? There is so much gold in this episode. I got Christina on to speak to eating for your menstrual cycle because I purchased her cookbook and absolutely loved it. But as I had a feeling it would, our chat covered so much more. We talk about food as medicine to support us as cyclical women, but we also talk about raising conscious boys and homeschooling, marriage and embodying cyclical living with our husbands, what it's like being projectors and women in business. Honestly, if you don't get anything at all out of this episode, this obviously is not the podcast for you because we touch on so much and it was such a wholesome chat. It is my absolute honour to bring this conversation to you. Please comment here on Spotify if you love it. Come and connect with each of us on Instagram with what you loved. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Okay. Enjoy this one, my loves. Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to chat to you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Look, I feel like we're going to cover so much today. Like we are two projectors chatting and we're bound to result in all sorts of gold and wisdom shared. Yeah. But if you feel comfortable, I would love to start with you maybe sharing a little bit about what life looks like for you right now. Like I personally love following along all the little snippets of your life that you share on your social media. Like I'm not the type to sort of try and consume too much on social media, but every time I see your name pop up, I'm like, I have to watch what she's doing or what she's got. It's always so good. So for those who might be tuning in, and especially if they don't know you yet, could you paint us a little bit of a picture of what life looks like right now for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like life is so chaotic. I'm like, where do I begin? Ultimately, I am mama of two boys. We have just moved interstate to Tasmania, which is like a really unexpected random decision. We've been living in a caravan for the last 2 years, traveling around, and have just been trying to be like location independent since having the boys. Really, I feel like that struck a chord. So we sold up our place in WA I think 3 years ago now, renovated our caravan and have been traveling around. I used to be a hairdresser and had my own shop and absolutely loved that. But it was like as soon as I had Ziggy, I knew I couldn't go back, and then fell pregnant with P when Ziggy was 6 months old, I think. And basically that just like jolted our whole life. Like he was born, he had skin issues, and I started going low-tox, and I feel like that honestly was just like the crux of cracking open like the possibilities of this world for me. And like starting network marketing as a business kind of led me into this realm of like freedom and living our life differently. And so we did the travel, we bought our home, Airbnb'd it, and we're here now, still homeschooling the boys at the moment. And yeah, just kind of trying to, I guess, find this like different way of living where we have like more time up our sleeve. And now we're diving into a bunch of different business things that have just been on my heart for a while, because my husband was FIFO while we were traveling. And so being in the van with the boys, there was just like little ideas on my heart that I guess kind of just couldn't come to fruition, because between homeschooling and trying to just like keep them alive in a caravan was just like all I had. So now I'm kind of in this like birthing stage of like a new version of myself and all these new things like that I've wanted to do for a couple of years are like all kind of happening at once. So that's my little crazy weird world at the moment.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. It's like you're in like the mother season of your life and you've done the birthing of your children and now it's birthing all of those beautiful projects. Like it's a different season, but the season, that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I love that. So during this episode, we're going to talk to eating for your cycle. But before we do, and like you touch on this in your book, so if you feel comfortable sharing, what was it that you were struggling with, that you were experiencing within your cycle that kind of led you to the path of using, I guess, food as medicine in this way within your menstrual cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's so many things. I feel like I've always had quite an unhealthy cycle. Predominantly what I suppose kickstarted the research a bit more once I became a mother was the heaviness, and I also found out that I had PMDD. So like just iron and B12 and all different things like that GPs were kind of like kept saying, pointing back to going on to contraception because of all those different things. And then I guess when I had the PMDD and I was chatting to doctors, it was like, oh, you need to go on this like partial antidepressant that you take a couple of days later. And I'm thinking, why has everything got to have a pill? Why has everything got to have a pill? And I was super, super lucky at the time that I had a friend who was into cyclic living, and my therapist had also suffered with PMDD, and sort of she was a holistic therapist and discussed with me like some things that kind of helped her. Yeah, so she was just incredible. It was awesome having a holistic therapist. She had like a different angle on everything, which was so nice. And she just started to share with me a few different things that helped her. And I guess like ultimately her perspective on PMDD, which I very much have come to find is true, is that how you treat yourself, your body, your boundaries, how you nourish yourself, how you prioritize your sleep, and all of those things is almost like a direct correlation to your symptoms of PMDD. And at first that kind of triggered me because I was like, are you implying that this is self-inflicted? Like, absolutely not. Because PMDD is so intense. There's suicidal ideology, there's exhaustion, there's like erratic behavior. It's like, I had never even heard of it. And then when I did, I was like, what? Sorry, how have I never heard of this? This is like so important. Like the amount of times in my younger, I'm going to go on a rant now. But like the amount of times like in my younger life where I potentially went to the doctor and got put on antidepressants before I led a cleaner lifestyle, that maybe I didn't have depression. It was this one time of month where I just was like spiraling, and then I was actually okay. But then because it kept repeating, I was like, oh no, I'm not, I'm unwell. Like, and when I think about like how I used to eat and drink as a kid, like my parents were not big on like nutrition. I'm like, no wonder I was so, yeah, like, so I guess that was kind of how it started for me. And then I went on this whole goose chase. You know, I can't even imagine how many thousands of dollars I probably spent with like naturopaths, kinesiologists, GPs, and all the things to go vegan for a year. And like I just did so many different things to try and get to the bottom, watched so many documentaries to make myself vegan and make myself feel bad to like completely just like alter my brain chemistry when it came to all of this stuff, to ultimately get myself back to a place where like elimination wasn't the key. The key was like actually listening to my body, and my body was always telling me what it needed, but it was always just telling me via the food that I was accustomed to. So like instead of me knowing that I needed like magnesium and red meat, I thought I needed Cadbury Top Deck, you know? And so it was like always communicating, but just not in the healthiest of ways. And then when I started to, I guess, like eliminate, then I could like hear it properly when I actually was eating real food and getting healthier in those ways. And like suddenly I'm drinking enough water, sleeping enough, respecting my own boundaries, eating the right food. And I'm like, oh, now I don't have PMDD. That's weird that feels like now when I have symptoms, I go, how have I been treating myself? I'm like, I can't remember eating breakfast for the last 2 weeks. And so it's like I can see how the symptoms like flare and then go away and flare and go away. So it's been very real for me personally that how I'm treating myself is like a reflection during my ovulation, because that's when it shows up for me, around ovulation time. And yeah, it just feels like such a ripoff because, you know, you kind of like the 5 days leading up to your period, you're tired and a bit grouchy and vulnerable. And then your 5 days of your period, you're a bit vulnerable. So it's like, then if you're also suffering with PMDD, you're like getting like a few days a month where you actually feel like a human being. So it was some really important, crucial information for me to learn this, and I just wish I learned it sooner. I don't understand why it's not talked about in schools. It's such a simple fix, even though it took me years to learn because my conditioning with my childhood was like a bit sketchy in terms of nourishment. It's such a simple fix when you see it. It's like, I can't believe I've been suffering this long when I don't have to, you know?
Yeah, it's really sad to think how many women and girls have experienced this in their life. And it's just chalked up to, oh, well, you know, that's what PMS is, or that's what it is to be a woman, or on the medication because you're labeled with, you know, any number of different other, you know, things. But actually, if we had this information about how our bodies actually work, how they talk to us, like a lot of the conversations that I have had recently come back to that, like our bodies are talking to us. We don't know how to listen because our society teach us to do that. And there's all those like conditioning and like, yeah, even conditioning around like, oh, when you're in your premenstrual phase, you reach for the chocolate and ice cream. But actually, what if we were just taught proper nourishment of, okay, we crave this, but what is it that our body's actually trying to tell us that it needs right now. So I just think having conversations like this, unfortunately, it means you've had a lived experience that's had a struggle alongside it. But now for you to be able to share it, I just think it's such a gift.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's spot on, like you say, the foods that we are craving and then shaming ourselves for, right? So then like we have this belief that there's something wrong with us because we're shaming ourselves through the process, which that alone is causing more inflammation in our body, which is just contributing more. Where it's like, I mean, I know for myself, like my dad is Portuguese, and so like I've got that European like taste buds and how I feel about food, but like creamy pasta is like my kryptonite. And I would shame myself so much every time I wanted that food. And I'm like, that is such a fueling food. And as soon as I like at the right time of month knew when that right time was to have that, I would have it like every single day in that time of month. And then I wouldn't crave it for the rest of the month. And I would never, like my weight or like how I felt in my body was never changing all of a sudden, because I was actually just listening to what my body wanted. Like it was craving this food for a reason. And the more I tried to not have it, the longer it was craving it. So it's like you just want a row of chocolate at the right time and you're like, I can't. And then you binge it because you're like, you've been restricting and holding yourself back from it. And it's like, no, we can actually have all of it. We can have whatever we want within the right quantity. And if we time it right, it's all perfect medicine. It really is. Obviously with conscious choices around, where we're purchasing from and stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And like, I love all of those layers to it, like having the conscious choice, having the awareness and body literacy, which obviously takes time to build if we've not grown up in that, which most of us have not, which is why we're here having this conversation, right? So you've got those layers, but then also acknowledging those conditioning elements around shame and guilt and realizing that that's actually not serving us and that's creating other issues in our body. And if we can then also add in that layer of working through that and kind of shedding that, like it's powerful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't realize the power that our beliefs have over us. And I guess most of like the people who will probably be listening to this, the chances are like we're the millennial babies that, grew up when our mums were deep in the, Marie Claire cabbage soup diet era, where all we were hearing and seeing was, Britney's abs on TV and, our parents constantly criticizing themselves. And, all of that contributes to, even if we don't identify with having like a negative relationship with our body or our food, like I've always been pretty comfortable like with whatever. I've always had the mindset of growing up with European family. Like I've always had the mindset of like, I'd rather be happy eating than be sad, like depriving myself of food. But then it went the other way, right? With like the overindulging, which I'm very good at. And so I guess it's like the belief that's ingrained in us from such a young age about what food is and when it's okay and when it's not and what is okay and everything. And we don't realize that it shapes everything. Like our belief alone shapes everything. Like I had the friend that I learned a lot of cyclic living from, say to me like, Christina, you can eat as much chocolate as you want. If you believe that there's nothing wrong with it, you can have as much as you want. And I was like, what? I was like, seriously? And I think there was that moment when she said that where I kind of went like, yeah, like what is this doing to my body every time I have something that I want or I love that's not the healthiest of things, just by believing like there's something wrong with me and I should be able to control myself or whatever. like as if our body is not innately wiser than we are in our brain. Like it's like as if it's not like telling us something that we need, and then we're going and paying all these doctors and everything to tell us something that we've got for free right here. But like you say, it feels impossible to listen because we just haven't been taught that. And it is a skill to learn, but it's also so much easier than we think as well, which is also very frustrating that it's free and simple, and all of us are like grabbing another supplement and drinking another kale smoothie, and like just trying. The wellness industry is just like booming off its head because we're all so sick. And it's like the reality is like the solution is like somewhat free, you know, to listen, make conscious consumption, and yeah, like I hate saying it, but like heal ourselves through that innate wisdom. So what we should be investing in more than anything is like how to listen, how to listen to us instead of the GP on Google.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think once we have like, it's almost like that permission slip that your friend gave you of like, if you want to eat the chocolate, eat the chocolate. That's sometimes having that permission slip can then give us the capacity to make the conscious choice and then find the options that are actually going to support and sustain us. Because I think a lot of us, when we are in these places where we're trying to find the answers, we're so deeply depleted. And it's really hard to find the capacity to figure out what the answer is and, you know, all of that. So, like, just for anyone listening, if you're thinking, oh my God, I have this body and it's talking to me and this is like free information, like, don't beat yourself up because this is what we're saying. Like, that doesn't help you. Find your thing that is going to support you. Give yourself permission to actually engage with that thing, eat that thing, whatever it looks like. And then that will give you that little bit of nourishment that will help you to then build those foundations.
Absolutely. I think that's probably why like cyclic living has felt so predominant for me, because I think that was almost, like you say, a bit of the permission or the confirmation, I suppose. Like I would crave things and be too busy shaming myself. And then when I came across cyclic living and I started to look at like the seasonal foods that were then what I should be having in accordance to where I was at in my inner seasons, I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm craving. Oh my God, I felt like that yesterday. And that was like the light bulb of like, oh my God, I can hear it. Like I do know, because had I have not like literally seen that like correspondence, I don't know if I would have trusted myself fully. And now, like I don't even question it. Like the main purpose of the book and having it like actually written out like that is for my husband, not for me. Because when I'm hungry, I know what I need. Like I know now. But when I am in that season of just like, oh my God, like I just need you to take some responsibilities. I need you to do the food shop on your own. I need you to take the kids out, whatever. He can go to that, write a meal plan, go to the shop and have no conversation with me. And I cannot express enough what that's done for our marriage, because I know what I need in the moment. Like on the day, I'm like, oh, do we have any of this in the house? But I don't know what's coming. So it's like the book was kind of like, I mean, we discovered this, like we separated a few years ago for 12 months and we were doing a relationship course, and we were so lucky in this relationship course. There was a cyclic teacher that did one of the sessions, and she did it with the women and then also with the men though, not just with the women. And when she kind of laid it out like this for both of us, because I didn't even realize how much I needed that support from him. Just even for him to be like, stop asking me what's for dinner. Like, like I don't care, just food. Right. And then it was like, suddenly it bridged this gap between us. It was just the craziest thing. Like we were living separately and everything. And he started to like offer to pick up some groceries on the day that he would drop the kids back off at the house. And he would bring the groceries and then he would hang out for a bit, and he slowly just started like prepping me some food for the fridge. And then I was just eating more, anyway. And it bridged this gap between us. Like, this just sounds so absurd that me and my husband were separated, and then he made me snacks and I was like, oh my God, I think I love you. I think I love you. But it bridged this gap, and it's been like such a like important thing. And then whenever we're struggling again, we check in on that, and it's like he's back in that routine of being like, oh, so I'm going to the shop, like, what do you want me to get? And I'm like, I could do it. Like, I could carry the mental load and go do it if you're not going to like think like, what are 5 meals that we can eat this week? And so the book, in this like selfish way, almost became like, I just want him to have it and stop asking me, stop getting lost sometimes. Because I'm just a better person. Women are just better human beings when we are well nourished, when we are sleeping well, when we are hydrated. We are just different humans. It just is,
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's also a piece that isn't talked about a lot, but that a lot of women are craving, whether or not they can put words to it, is having the people in their lives being able to support them. And, particularly our husband, like my husband is obviously, I do this, so he's very aware of my cycle and everything. But I think it's so important for us to know as women what's going on in our bodies throughout the month, but to then bring our families into that conversation. And like, we're both mums of kids as well, so teaching them as that next generation, like they don't have to learn it as a husband. They're already going to know it. It's just, I always think it's so incredible. But to have that beautiful added depth to a relationship, you them being able to us, because they experience us probably at our worst in our relationships, because they just cough it, because it's the nature of, living with quarters and being in relationship. And so if they have this understanding too of where we're at, they can meet us where we're at. But then to have tools like a recipe book that goes, okay, this is something, because men like to do something, right? They like to have a problem solved, and they like to take action. For it to be able to have that, like, how amazing. And that gave me goosebumps as we were talking about that it like started to build a relationship. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild, I think it wasn't probably until after the fact, when we like maybe hit our next rough bump, that we were like, what happened? Like, how did we like rekindle? Like, what was the actual like moment where it was like, I can see you like moving back in here or whatever. And I said, I just remember you started making me food, and I just felt so loved. Like, I felt so loved, not just that you were just making me food, but that you were taking time and effort and energy to like research what my body needed and go out of your way to customize it to that. Like, that just felt like the deepest level of love that I had felt from you. And it was massive. And then, like you say as well, like being able to teach our boys that, like, I can't even fathom not having this information if I had girls, but like to be able to teach our boys that, our future men, and how different they're going to, even just, if you just even think about like learning like sex ed and learning this stuff in school, and like everybody being like, oh my God, ew, all of that stuff. And like, I think about my boys and I'm like, if somebody sat next to him was like, ugh, I feel like my boys would be like, what? Like, they wouldn't even fathom the idea that there's anything like gross, unusual, like they would like be like, what's happening to your face? Did you step on a spider? Like, are you okay? Like, they wouldn't even grasp that there's anything to be embarrassed about in that conversation. Like, my kids are like, this is a bit of an overshare, but like my kids are like, I'll go to the toilet and I'll be like, we call it my boo-boo. I'm like, oh, mummy got her boo-boo. And they're like, no worries, mum. And they're in the, I don't even have to ask. They're in the cupboard grabbing a pad or whatever. And I mean, we obviously use all different things, but on my first couple of days, I don't have a choice. TMI again. But the ones that have like the facts and stuff on them, and like they literally fight over that. Like they like come in and they're like so unfazed by like what is actually going on the toilet. It's just like, I want to get it, I want to give it to her, I want the facts, like, and it's just like so not about anything. It's just, and it's like, oh, mummy's allowed extra chocolate, we have to look after mummy. They're like, dad, mum needs hot water bottle, like, and they are so nurturing and caring during that. They know that like I need it to be like a little bit quieter, like I need them to chill, you know, like I'm not going to be going out. It's just like second nature. And I'm like, I was in my 30s before I knew that, and they're little men and they get it, and that just makes me like so happy.
I wholeheartedly agree. My son's the same. I'll say, oh, I got my bleed today, because for me it's often quite a relief when I finally have that release. And he'll be like, oh, yay, mummy, do you want a heat bag? And then, you know, like he'll look after me, he'll bring over a blanket. And like, he's probably been doing that since he was about 2 years old. And, you know, that comes from obviously me carving that out for myself, like actually doing the things that I need. But I think a huge part of it is my husband modeling that to him, like, you know, how he looks after this woman. And I love hearing that it's happening in our homes as well, because I know that a lot of women, especially if they're just like we were probably a few years ago, like just learning about this after 30 years of knowing nothing about it. It's a beautiful place when you can get to that, especially when kids get a bit older as well, that they're actually such a part of it. And just like they will know girls, like menstruating girls and women, their whole lives. And for them to be little allies, I just think is so beautiful. And like you said, they're not going to be cringing, going, oh, like that's weird. Like they're just going to be like, oh, what do you need? And
Yeah.
how beautiful.
Yeah. Like offering up their jacket if there's ever like a leakage, you know, and that's something to be so proud of. I think I'm really, yeah, just in awe of them. And like you say, it's your husband modeling like what that is and what that looks like. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing that we're very lucky to get to just break the stigma around, because how absurd that the very thing that brings life into this world is something we're like not supposed to understand or talk about. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I can't get my head around that either. But like everything, you know, everything that Jane Hubbard explains always says, like everything that holds power in our society is like belittled or made weird or shamed, but actually that's the clue that it holds great power. And, you know, we're making great strides these days, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Big time. Way too long to go. But yeah, I guess we're seeing a collapse of a lot of it right now for the rebuild, which is scary and wonderful all at once.
Definitely. Yeah. All the layers to it all. Shifting gears a little bit, I was thinking about this earlier, but as I said before, how I love watching you and what you share and what you do, and thinking about like how multifaceted your work is and all the different things you do. You have so many beautiful branches. Things. So I'd love to know that you're also a projector and a homeschooling mum and all the things. I'd love to know how you stay grounded while you've got all these things going on. I know you said like obviously life's changed in terms of how your time looks and everything compared to the last few years. But yeah, how do you find that push and pull between doing all the things and then taking what you need to feel nourished through that?
Yeah, for sure. I'll open with that by saying I feel like a total hypocrite even answering this, because I'm super ungrounded at the moment. Like the transition period that we're in is so shaky right now. So I feel like I would want to start with that, with just like the disclaimer that like anybody who like seems like they're grounded all the time, we're just not. It's such a like ebb and flow thing, right? Like I feel like I have the tools now and I know what to do, but I feel like I'm still human and I still sabotage those moments for myself in order to like play the whole like I'm doing everything card and then have to catch myself in that and like kind of rein myself back in. So I think like, again, same thing in terms of like it's been such a process of elimination, especially finding out that I am a projector, because I personally, when I found out I was a projector, was like, no, I'm not. Like I didn't relate to any of it. I like was mad that I was a projector. I was like, nah, that's not me. I was raised by like a masculine mother and a European masculine father. Both of them had insane work ethic. We never saw them as kids. They were always hustling. They built like an 8-home property portfolio. Like they've been broke as a joke, blacklisted, and then been like the richest people in our vicinity. And so like I witnessed great success and always strived for my father's approval, which to him was career success. And so that was who I was when I found that information out. And so I was like, what do you mean I need to lay down to be successful? Absolutely not. I will not be doing that. And I think I've been in my experiment since then, obviously, unraveling all of that, became really successful with the hustle, and then kind of came back down from that and went like, so like you can be really successful, but then it's going to collapse because it's not attainable for like me and who I am. And the fact that I'm type B, I don't have systems and all those types of things. So I guess like coming into like a new realm of knowing that I love working so much and I am so multifaceted in my passions, it was like, if I'm going to do this stuff, like it has to be so different to what it's ever been before. Like it can't be like when I ran my salon. It can't be like when I built up my network marketing success. Like it can't be this grind that it used to be. And so I had to just learn like a different way. I think in terms of like staying grounded, like it always comes back to the basics. And this was very frustrating for me to learn too. Like I was like, am I sleeping? Am I eating green shit? And am I drinking water? Like it's the whole complicated houseplant thing, right? So it was like every time I was like hyper whatever, it's like, am I doing these? And the answer every time was no. Every time. Like pushing through something or having boundaries broken or like accepting more things when it was like my body knew it was a no, but I wasn't listening yet. So I think, again, it kind of goes back to, this is why like the book has felt like it was so funny when it kind of came about, because I was like trying to think of income streams that were passive, that were set and forget and then nothing, because that's a projector's dream, right? Unless I can get paid to talk all day, which is like the other dream. And so when I vividly remember somebody saying to me like, what do people come to you for? Like, what do people message you about? What are they asking you? And I was like, honestly, everyone's asking me for recipes, and it really pisses me off because I don't follow recipes, and I'm not going to like pick my phone up and sit there for 20 minutes and write a recipe for you. Like that's like, I'm not going to do that. And so it was something that actually made me angry. And then that person asked me that question, and then I went, I can turn this into an ebook. And then that's a passive income. And then nobody can ask me, anybody who asks me, I'm going to send them the link to the ebook. And so that was kind of how it eventuated. And then it was so funny. I was going to launch it in January. And I feel like this is also the projector way, right? Like we can't just plug into something for like financial benefit. We can't do that. We have to be like completely obsessed and passionate about what we're doing, or it's a no. And so I was like trying to create it, and I just kept blocking myself. Like I could not sit down and create this thing at all. And I see a psychic, and she kept saying to me like, the book, the book, the book. And I was like, I feel like I've missed the boat. I can't be bothered. I hate Canva. It annoys me. The buttons never click where I want them to click. Like, I hate technology. I just kept like sabotaging myself. And she was just like, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. You've got to do it. And then what it came down to was that I could not write a recipe book with just food. It was so much bigger than that, because it was intertwined with this grounded energy. It was intertwined with how important food was as medicine. It was like so much bigger. And that's why I couldn't sit down and write a recipe book, because that's not what I wanted to write. It needed to be more than that. And then as soon as she kind of gave me permission for it to be more storytelling and more imagery and a bit of poetry, and there be recipes also in it, but it not be just a recipe. It was like, I kid you not, this is so embarrassing, but I procrastinated that for like 5-6 months. And then it was Easter long weekend and Brad took the boys away and I finished it in 2 days. And I was
Wow.
like, I was so mad at myself. And then it became this thing I was super proud of, because it went from like, I'm creating this thing because it's going to help me with like a little bit of an income stream, to like, I'm so proud of this work. Like, and then it felt so easy to do it. And so I think like, if it's not like, have I slept? Have I drunk enough water? Have I eaten? It's like just being in alignment with your values, and then knowing when to like pull yourself back or lean in. I think human design is a huge part of staying grounded as well. Like, for example, I had calls on Monday, and I actually have so much to do this week. But then I had another call on Thursday morning. So when you messaged about this, I was like, yeah, I'll put that on Thursday too. And then I've got to record something, and I was like, I'll put that on Thursday too. Because I would rather have 3 days off this week than have something every day, because I know that even though I'll be tired by the end of today because I've kind of packed everything in, then I'll have like 3 days of nothing. And so learning about my human design helped me stay grounded in that, like how much recovery time I need, or how much prep time I need, or, you know, what that looks like. Because I think sometimes we want it to be like this special routine, or this really like, you know, big situation. And sometimes it's like, sometimes it's just staying in bed for an extra 2 hours in the morning, eating three good meals a day, and sculling a lot of water. And that's what it looks like for me. Sometimes it's just like going to the beach with my kids. And sometimes it is like there's something to unpack and I need to sit with a journal. So I think it's so hard because we want it to be, that was such a long-winded way of telling it, but like we just want it to be like this one thing, right? And I think different seasons and different circumstances call for a different answer to that. But I do think that our basic human needs being met, and knowing our human design is like game changing in knowing like what actually makes us feel the best. Like as a projector with like the mountains environment, I know I fill up from being alone because I need to not be plugged into anybody, and my house needs to be clean when I do that, because otherwise I'll just clean the whole time. So like when my husband's going to take the boys out for me to have a day, I have to have my phone on charge in another room. He helps me reset the house before he goes, and I force myself to like stay in bed and like binge watch movies or whatever. And that's what's cup filling for me. Because even if I was seeing people that I dearly loved, if I'm not going very well, that still takes, like it still takes you know, getting up, getting dressed, popping some makeup, you know, like things that a few years ago I would have been so embarrassed to say, like, that makes me tired to get out of bed and get dressed in the morning. And again, that would have correlated with me thinking I had depression. It's like knowing those parts of myself more deeply now is like, I'm not ashamed to be like, No, I went out on Tuesday. I'm not going out again this week. Like that doesn't make me feel weird anymore, where that would have made me feel like a bit lazy or whatever, like previously. So I think, yeah, deeply knowing yourself in those kind of tests and stuff is like a superpower for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. For one, keeping it simple, like, um, and really just, it really is the basics. And a lot of the conversations I've had recently have all women are all saying the same thing, that we don't need to overcomplicate it. We just need to come back to basics. But totally agree on human design being an absolute life changer. Like when I found out that I was a projector, opposite reaction to you, I was like, oh my God, this makes sense. It was the most validating experience of my life. And it just, it totally changed everything for me, having that knowledge, and been experimenting with it over the last few years since finding out and like diving deep into some of the layers. But knowing that information, and I think particularly being a non-sacral being and being a projector, things like we need alone time, we need to be disconnected from everyone and everything else is so important. And I still have a lot of guilt around that, that I'm always constantly unpacking. Like it's way better than it was, but I feel like I always have that little bit of me that goes, oh, I should want to be with my boys, or I should want to, I'm always working through that. But again, it's like the cyclical awareness that gives us language to speak to. Human design is the same thing. Being able to say, like, my husband and son are both generators, and very different, fine to me. But then we have some similarities as well. So it's kind of nice to be able to have that language, even though, like, especially my husband, he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. I'll be like, oh, that's a generator thing. He's like, oh, whatever. But it still gives me something that I can be like, this is how I'm putting language to it.
Yeah.
And so, like you were saying before, like going out and being with people, they might be my most favorite people in the world, but it's still, I still need something to then recharge my energy, because, the way that we work as projectors, we just absorb everything. And so I think that me, that's a really key thing that goes with my grounding, is having every day some time. It's not always lots of time or as much as I would like or really probably need, but if I'm consciously taking time to just unplug, and for me, just like going outside and
Yeah.
looking at a tree, it's usually like
Yeah.
my go-to,
Yeah.
which just sounds simple, but I think that's the point.
Yeah. Well, because like you say, as projectors, we just plug into our environment. So whether that's a person or a place or a room full of people or a tree, like that is our reality. And so I think that's why places like the beach or being in a forest or whatever, they do fuel us, because we're literally plugged into like source, so what could be more powerful? Yeah, I absolutely echo that. And that took me a while, because I love being at home. Like, it took me a while to be like, you can stay in your pajamas, but you need to go and eat lunch on the grass. Like, you have to go outside. And I'm like, this is the conversation with myself in my head. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go outside. But it is so important and so powerful for us. And even the way in which we work with, like, my husband even knows, like, he doesn't love it, but he knows, because I found this out somewhat recently, but it was somewhere along the lines of like, projectors shouldn't even like sleep in the same bed with somebody all the time, because you're literally plugged into their energy while you're sleeping. So you like can wake up feeling exhausted. And I was just like, whoa. So my husband's actually sleeping on the couch for like 2 nights, because he just got 4 days off work. And I literally was like not sleeping. And then he went and slept on the couch, and I've been sleeping like through again. And I'm like, you can't make this shit up. And then it makes so much sense for me, even small things. Like, I had a lot of guilt and shame around not co-sleeping with my babies when they were born, and not understanding why I like couldn't do it, or like it didn't feel right. And then I spoke to somebody who is like a human design coach and was like, just being a mother in general as a projector is a momentous task. And if that's, you know, if that was the only thing you were doing and you had one child, that's a lot. That's more than a lot for a projector mother. And so then that kind of helped me understand like things that I probably, again, would have related to thinking I had depression when I was just like pushing myself beyond my limits, because I had no idea what my limits really were ultimately. So, and I can relate with I've got, so Manny Gen husband, one Manny Gen son, and the other son's a generator. So I'm just like, oh my God, everybody stop moving for like 5 minutes.
A lot of energy.
Oh.
Yeah, I resonate with the sleep stuff too. Like, I mean, we're living in a caravan, so I don't have an option of another bed at the moment. But again, having that validation of like looking back on the early years with my son, like I did co-sleep with him for like 4 years and it breastfed until he was 3. So now I can look back with that lens and go, oh, that is why I was so depleted. That is why I had such terrible mental health and why I was struggling so much. I was literally attached to him physically and energetically 24/7. Like, no wonder I was struggling so much, and that it took me a good couple of years to actually start to come out of that. So I just think that having these ways of relating to ourselves in a new way, coming back to ourselves and what we need as individuals, it's so important and really powerful once we start to experience those shifts. Like you were saying earlier with the food, like sometimes we actually have to experience it and see those little glimmers of evidence that then helps us, okay, this is a path that I can keep following because it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard because I think we want there to be a big puzzling answer, or like this big expensive solution, or you know, it's like, oh, if it's natural or it's easy or it's like what we've innately known, it's like everybody just wants to link that to like this hippie language, or like, oh, you're a bit woo-woo, you're a bit this. And it's like, I mean, that's why they've done it, right? Like you said, anything that is innately powerful, they turn it cringe. So it's like, oh, hippie, are these smelly? And it's like, no, it's like you're a human that is connected to nature and to yourself. That is what they have tried to turn into this like cringy stereotype, is somebody who is not searching for an answer. They know it. Like, are you, yeah, that, it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad that it is so easily accessible. But then when you're saying that, when people are so unwell and you're saying that, you sound wild to them. Like, to be like, it's all within you. It's like, yeah, righto, whatever that means. Like, people can't fathom that, like, that's not like a hippie, like, that's just what it is. But it doesn't sound right, because that's the stereo, you know, they've created cartoons and this and that where they're the sorts of things that they'll say. And so it's like we just have this idea and this visual in our head that is like so against it all. I feel like it's crashing down, but yeah, it's still hard and frustrating. And the wellness industry is just so overpopulated and overconsumed and everything now that it's very difficult to know what's real and what's true, because it's just so noisy. It's so noisy. And things can be interpreted in different ways. You know, somebody could sit and listen to us talk about like food is medicine, and then they could go to Woolworths and buy all the meat that's on special and be like, why don't I feel better? And it's like, because that's not meat, and there's something in there that shouldn't be in your body. And so it's like everything's also up to interpretation as well, which is what's so frustrating, because there's so many dodgy people and stuff out there that it's very hard for people to do the right thing now because it's just so noisy.
Yeah, agree. And everyone's promising the quick fixes or like the magic pill or the magic solution. Um, and I guess they're probably threatened by the fact that it is actually all within us. We allow ourselves to slow down enough to listen. And I think that's why, everything's structured on our fast-paced society and productivity and doing all the things and like you've got to do more and add this to your plate and add that to your plate. And actually what most of us need is to slow down a little.
Big time. Big time. I think slowing down is like one of the most underestimated, like, I don't know how far deep down you dive into the rabbit hole, but like there's been chitty chat around in the human design community around projectors being the newest type, and that we are the leaders of like the new earth. So manifestors have been like leading the way things have been going. And now we've moved into this like age of Aquarius situation. It's like that projectors are going to lead us into like the new way of doing and the new way of living because of the way that we see things. And so everything's going to kind of crash down. All these like structures that we know and understand and have for so long are going to crash down, and everybody's going to be like, well, what do we do? And that's what we as projectors are here to do, is to show people how simple it can be, how easy it can be. And I don't take that lightly, because like when I first heard that, I was like, oh, we're too tired. What do you mean? We're too tired to do that. But it's like, it's almost made me take my rest and my slowness and my lifestyle even more seriously, because it's like, if people are going to be looking to their projector friends and the people that are within leadership that are projectors, if we're not living it, like if we're not fully embodying it, no matter what anybody around us is saying, it's going to be so difficult for us to build the right thing. And so I think like, yeah, I think it's now more than ever so crucial for us to be showing people like what it looks like. And it's so hard because then there's the pendulum swing, right? Because I feel like we're the 90s kids that went like hustle culture, boss babe, and then we've like swung to the other end where we're like, I don't want to do any of that anymore. And now we're kind of coming back to the middle where it's like, oh, what is this going to be? Because I mean, that's 100% been the last few years of my life, is like, okay, I don't want to hustle anymore. I don't want to go to a 9 to 5. Like, what do I want? Because I know that I don't work well when all I'm thinking about is finances. Like, I know I need to be passionate about what I'm doing and what I'm offering. And then it was so funny. I was having this conversation with someone the other day saying like, like I've spent years saying like, I'm not going to pick a niche. You can't put me in a box. I'm multifaceted. Like, don't tell me I have to pick one thing, like blah, 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 blah. And then it was like, I had like the kids' clothing label come through, the cookbook, the mentoring, helping people go low-tox, like all this stuff. And I kept saying to my psychic, like, which one? Like, which one? And she was like, all of them. And as a projector, I was like, absolutely not. Like, no way. It has to just be one. I can't be doing all of that. And she was like, no, it's all of them. And I got so mad, and I sat on it for like 2 years because I was like, I can't do all of that. And what it was my prayers finally been answered. I will not niche. You can't put me in a box. And it was like, okay, you don't want to be in a box? Okay. Now you're in all of the boxes. And I was like, no, I don't want to be, that's too many boxes. And so then what I've had to do is like find a way to make these things set and forget and partially passive, and that there's only one thing where I'm like exchanging more of my time, because as a projector, that's your value, right? Is your perception and your time. And so, but I mean, honestly, like 2.5 years it's taken me to accept, like, okay, I'm going to build multiple things, but how am I going to do it where I'm still only working like 3 days a week? Because I know that I'm just not capable of more than that, especially homeschooling the kids. And that was just like one of those funny universe moments, you know, where I'm like, you can't box me in. And then it's like, all right, here you go, like scatter, scatter. And I was like, oh, I was just kidding. Please give me back the box.
I love that like I mean, for one, it's like that whole saying of like, be careful what you wish for. Not in a way of like, don't, things, but just like, we then get to be discerning about what we choose and conscious how we move through things. But I love what you were saying about how we get to kind of guide this next stage for the collective, really giving ourselves permission to be in alignment with ourselves. And for us, often that looks like that slower pace, because I often think that too. I'm like, with the way that we're living and what we're doing, I'm like, oh, should I share about it? Should I not? Is it going to make me feel weird? No, because this is showing the options and that there is another way. And like, I don't have all the answers. I don't have it all figured out. Every day I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I have no idea. But I'm trying it. And, you know, like I'm taking steps forward. And I think for us, particularly as projectors, it's like scaffolding with doing with the rest, and scaffolding doing thing, which is a constant dance. And I don't get it right most of the time, but at least I'm halfway there some of the time. And that's a far cry from where I used to be, even like 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
And that's the point of the experiment as well, right? Is that we're trialing and erroring, and every time we think we've got it in the bag, we try to push ourselves a little bit, and then we suffer, and we're like, oh damn, like I need to reassess that again. One of the most beautiful things that was ever said to me from a friend, this was like, I felt so bad. She literally did my human design chart for me for free. She just like pulled it, did it, emailed it to me. It took her like 2 weeks to do it. And I took one look at it and was like, nah, too overwhelming, like was completely overstimulated. And I probably replied like a few words like, thanks so much. And that was it. Like at the time, not knowing how much she'd put into that. Just being so overstimulated by it and like reading things and being like, nah, that's not me. That's not me. But one of the most beautiful things that she said to me, because we actually worked together in network marketing, and so she was in my mentor space at the time, and so she was fully aware of like my workload and the way that I showed up in my leadership and things like that. And I obviously reached breaking point, burnout, and I lent on her very heavily. And she ultimately said to me, like, Christina, the way that your energy works is not like other people's. It's not going to make sense at first, but at the end of the day, whatever you give away, you have to give back to you. So if you go and pour 2 hours into that mentor space and then you haven't scheduled 2 hours back to you, it's not going to work. And it hit me like a ton of bricks because, I've got goosebumps now just saying it. It was just like, I love to pour into people. I love to give and I feel so good. But there was also this part that was like, but is that also a dopamine hit? Because as a projector, we want to be recognized. So then when we overgive, people are grateful. So it was like, but I'm never actually receiving anything back from that. And so it was like this massive moment of like when someone would ask me to do something, whether it was for work or a friend wanting to catch up or whatever, I would then zoom out on my whole week, where I was in my cycle, and go, they want a day of my time. Is there a day that I can give back to myself? Or if I'm nearly bleeding, I'm going to need 2 days or 3, whatever. that it was just like this massive piece of like, oh, well, if I can't give it back tenfold, the answer's no. And it just like the no's started flowing so much easier. And that was a massive puzzle piece to me, a massive piece of information of like, if you can't return it back, you can't give it out. And it just like exploded my brain and completely altered like my boundaries and my time for the better. And now I feel like, you know, people probably do watch me on social media. They're like, she's running this and she's running this and she's running this. And I'm like maybe working like 10 hours a week. Like I am in my pajamas most days. I'm chilling out with the kids. And I don't plan on like changing that, you know? And I think that's so important to me. And especially like in my mentoring space at the moment, I can feel the universe testing me because I love doing that so much. And the universe is testing me by like sending more people in, or like I'm like going over on my calls and then I get a headache and I'm like, I'm doing it again. And I'm having to really like check myself at the moment with my time and my return. Absolutely. Because it's so hard when you love something or you love someone to like be like, it actually doesn't matter. You're going to not be okay. You have to. And then the connection piece of like, well, if I'm not okay, my babies aren't okay. So it's like, it doesn't matter how much I love you or how much I love this thing. Like, if I give it to you, I'm taking it from them. That was like a massive, like, oh, yeah, I can't do that to them. So I'm sorry. I love you, but like, I've got to call it here. Was also like a massive, massive moment.
Mm. And I think that's such a powerful piece of being a projector too, is that we can do that zoom out and take that bird's eye look and go like across the board, where is this working and not working, and therefore how can we find a little more equilibrium here.
And even the piece of like how difficult when you first start your experiment, right, where like you're kind of like, oh, is it a yes or is it a no? And it's like, it is a yes. Like heaps of the time, it is a yes. Like, yeah, I want to do that thing, but do I need to do something else? Like, that was such a difficult thing for me to grasp because, like, I just knew in my body, like, yes, I want to do that. But what you want and what you need are two very different things. And that sucked. Like, that was such a hard thing to be like, I'm literally like my own mum, like, no, you're grounded. You can't go out because you're going to be too tired in your own head, which is wild.
I fully resonate with that though. Like it just makes so much sense to me as a fellow projector that we really have to be conscious of the choices we're making, and like that question of, okay, it's a yes. How can I sustain that? If I can't sustain it, it has to become a no, or like a maybe later kind of thing, you know, like we have to choose our timing. And that's, again, having that cyclical knowledge of knowing, okay, it might be a no right now, but in 2 weeks' time, it could be a yes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think particularly when you are in business and you're scheduling and things like that, like when you messaged, it felt so easy to say yes because I knew that I was going to like clog today up and that I'm due for my bleed next week. And so I was like, no, yeah, like end of next week. So I'll go into my like sleepy phase at the start of the week. And I was like, it feels so easy to like plug this in right here because I know that I'm going to have 3 days rest. And then I know that I'm like completely surrendered for like my bleed and everything. And this is where all the puzzle pieces help, right? Like the cyclic living alongside the human design. It's like, it is simple and it's also like focusing on the right things, the right tools that are actually like individual to you as a human instead of just like the one fits all approach, which just doesn't work, obviously.
On that note, I feel like we should probably start wrapping up. Otherwise, we will be here for hours more. I love to end my guest episodes by asking the same question, if you feel comfortable answering. Having been through all that you have, if you could meet yourself at the beginning of this journey and speak to her as your higher self, what would you tell her?
I think just keep following the nudges. Like, just trust the nudges. I feel like I've always been a little bit whimsical in that something will hit and everybody thinks I'm fucking crazy and I just do it anyway, and it always works out. It just always, like, there's always lessons on the way, like there's always like bumps and whatever, but it's like it just always works out. Like we innately know, and we get lost along the way sometimes, but we can always come back to it. I think that when you get these things, these downloads, these messages, you know, this nudge, this like idea, whatever, it's like it's there for a reason, and it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. I know that's really cliche saying, but it's like it does not have to make sense to anybody else. It's there for a reason. You can trust it. It is powerful, and there's like that version of you that's like already doing it, that's like pulling you toward it. So it's like, just go there. Like nobody else has to understand.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So to finish up, let all the listeners know where they can find you. I'll put all of the links and everything in the show notes, but if people want to come and connect with you, where can they?
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram at Raise Our Tribe. So it's raise.our.tribe. And that's kind of like my main hub. That's where I'm just like sharing the day to day. And then the cookbook and everything is linked through that if that's of interest. It's got its own little Instagram, but you can message me anywhere. But that's kind of my main hub, where every part of me is just plugged into that one spot. And it's kind of like lifestyle and business and all of the things all in the one place. So yeah, that's the main little spot.
Oh, so scroll down to the show notes if you're listening to this and click on all the links. Go and give Christina a follow. Honestly, she shares just the most beautiful information. You won't regret following her.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
Thank you so much for joining me today for this chat. I am so deeply grateful to have been able to sit here with you and soak up your wisdom and just have a beautiful conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it. I knew we would have a good time, just simply because we're projectors. You can't have a bad chat.
So true. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and we will see you in the next episode.
I want to invite you into a moment for integration, because consumption of knowledge is great, but where it turns into wisdom is when we reflect and bring it into our own lives. So my invitation here is to reflect for a minute on what's been shared today, and then choose one tiny step you can take to bring those lessons into your life. Take a deep breath and devote yourself to that step today. With my deepest gratitude, I am so honoured that you have chosen to listen to this episode today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be sure to check the show notes for any relevant links, references, and resources. A final note that this podcast is a space for sharing personal stories, experiences, and inspiration. It's not medical or professional health advice. By listening, you accept full responsibility for how you choose to take or apply any of the information shared. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. You are a sovereign being. Always follow your heart and choose what feels best and true for you.